friend. Welcome to our Best of Summer series here on the Not Your Average Autism Mom podcast. So, summer looks a little different around here because let's be honest, routines change, schedules get messy, kids are home more, therapies shift, and life can feel a little extra full this time of year. So, instead of adding more to your plate, I wanted to give you a chance to revisit some of our most impactful, most downloaded, and most shared episodes from the past several years. These are the conversations that really resonated with moms in our community, the ones that made you feel seen and understood, supported, and a little less alone on this parenting journey that none of us planned. So whether this is your first time hearing this episode, or maybe you're listening again from a completely different season of life and parenting perspective, I hope it gives you exactly what you need today. And don't forget, there are over 270 episodes waiting for you in our podcast library. So summer is the perfect time to go back and binge listen and catch up on episodes that you might have missed, or revisit ones that hit home for you before. They are in no particular order, so just scroll through and find episodes that resonate with you where you are right now. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's jump into this week's Best of Summer episode. Episode 233, Back-to-School Parent Pep Talk, what every autism parent needs to know. Hey friend, welcome to another episode of the Not Your Average Autism Mom podcast. I am your host, Shannon Urquiola, and I am so glad that you are here with me. This is a big one. First of all, welcome back. If you've been hanging with us all summer, you know we've been doing a special Best of Summer series, spotlighting some of our most loved and most needed episodes. I hope you had a chance to re-listen, because one thing I know for sure is when you hear something again from a new place in your journey, it just lands differently. You pick up new things, or maybe you hear exactly what you needed to hear just at the right time. But today I'm back with brand new episodes every Thursday, just like always. And this is our first ever video episode. Now, listen, I'm not entirely sure why y'all want to see me in addition to hearing me. I mean, I already talk with my hands and make plenty of facial expressions you didn't need confirmation of, but I've heard you. So for those of you who have said things like, I wish I could see you talk, or it would be easier to stay engaged if I could watch you. I mean, listen, I'm not sure why anyone wants to see me more than they already do, but apparently that's what you wanted. So here I go. Now, you can still listen the same way you always have on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, wherever you get your audio. But now you can also watch the full podcast on the Spotify app. So whether you're a walker with earbuds, or maybe you're a laundry folder with a phone propped up, or maybe you're that mama that's hiding in her closet, however you're joining me, I'm just glad you're here. And if this is your first time joining us, welcome to our Not Your Average Autism Mom community. Whether you're listening or watching, I want you to know you belong here. Now, let's get into it, because this time of year is more than just school supplies and new sneakers. When your child has an IEP, there's so much more to think about. It's about anxiety. It's about unknowns. It's about starting over again. And it can get overwhelming fast. So I'm breaking it down to help you focus on what really matters so you can start the school year strong. So yes, here we are. It's that time again. New backpacks, new routines, and for so many of you, a brand new IEP team, or maybe a brand new school. And that can bring a whole lot of feelings. Some excitement, sure, but also a good dose of anxiety and that heavy feeling in your chest that you're going to have to start all over. Target aisles are packed with folders and glue sticks and lunch boxes. And many of you are walking into another school year, not just as mom, but as the mom who has to make sure this IEP is actually followed. Trust me, I get it. Maybe your child is starting a new grade, or maybe you've got a whole new team this year, or maybe your kiddo is in the same school with the same plan, but something still feels uneasy. The transition into a new school year can bring all the feels. There's hope, but there's also that pit in your stomach that you're going to have to explain everything again, that your child is going to have to prove themselves all over again. And that's exhausting. That's why I want to walk you through what I call the 5 big back to school IEP buckets and go deeper into what's really happening inside those IEPs that you're relying on to support your child this year. Because you, mama, deserve to go into the school year feeling informed and supported. So today we're covering what every autism parent needs to know about their child's IEP as they head back to school in 2025. And I want to start here. First, if you feel overwhelmed, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're parenting a child or children whose needs are not always met by a traditional system. And if your child is entering a new school or a new grade or even just a new classroom, you are allowed to request an IEP meeting. I don't care if their annual meeting isn't scheduled until February. If you need it now, ask for it now. This is one of those myths that I see every year. You can only have one IEP meeting a year. Not true, not even close. If your child's needs change or the team has changed and you want to meet, you absolutely can. So now let's get into the 5 big buckets for back to school IEP success. Bucket number 1, know what's actually in the IEP. And I want you to know, I say this with all the love. Do not assume that you remember everything that's in your child's IEP just because you sat through the meeting. You've slept since then. You've lived life since then. And sometimes things change and you don't even realize they should be reflected in the plan. So before school kicks off, I want you to do this. Print out your child's IEP. Yes, I said print. There's something about physically highlighting and flipping through it that helps. Go through it with fresh eyes. Read the present levels of performance. Do they sound like your child right now? Look at the goals. Are they specific? Are they measurable? Are they based on real data? Or are they just recycled from the last IEP with new dates? Services and accommodations. Is the frequency clear? Are they actionable? Because here's the thing. You're not just looking at, is it written well? You're looking at, is this helpful and meaningful for this school year? Because I've seen way too many goals that are vague, unmeasurable, or just plain outdated. And when the goals are off, the supports are usually off too. I say this all the time. IEPs should be written with clarity. If you don't understand it, neither will the teacher who's reading it for the first time. And don't forget, if your child is in an inclusion setting like art, PE, or lunch, these less structured and socially demanding environments are often where our kids struggle the most. And yet they're often overlooked in the IEP. So make sure goals and supports extend beyond the classroom. Bucket number 2, prompts are not the plan. Don't let prompting become a crutch. All right, I'm going to get a little fired up for a second because prompts are a tool. They're not a goal. The end goal for every child should be some level of independence, whatever that looks like for them. If your IP is full of with prompting, but there's no plan to fade that prompting over time, that's a red flag. If your child has 5 goals and every single one says with prompting, we've got a problem. Prompting is helpful, but it cannot be the end game. And when it becomes the default, guess what happens? Our kids learn to wait. They become dependent on that cue, and it becomes a cycle that no one breaks. We want to help our children succeed, yes, but the goal of every IEP should be independence. Too often I see goals like with minimal prompting or with adult support, but with no plan to fade those prompts. And listen, our kids, they're smart. They learn quickly that if they wait long enough, someone will step in and do it for them. And if you've been here for a while, you might remember me talking about Jordan's one-on-one para in high school. And when I showed up to school and I realized that Jordan was just standing there waiting for him to open the door. Wait, what? No, sir. Jordan can absolutely open his own door. So that's an example of what doing too much for our kids can create. He started doing it, so Jordan let him. Yeah, not to worry. I put a stop to that real quick. But here's what I want you to do. Ask the team, how will the prompts be faded? What's the plan to reduce support as he or she gains skills? What does independence look like for this goal? Because if the plan is just keep prompting forever, then the goal is really the adult doing the work and not the child learning the skill. And listen, I've seen prompting strategies that were so overused, the child made no progress all year. That's not okay. Your child deserves better, and so do you. So push for clarity. Ask, how will supports be faded over time? How will success be measured without constant adult intervention? All right, bucket number 3, communicate in writing always. I cannot stress this enough. If you only take one thing from this episode, let it be this. When it comes to your child's education, if it is not in writing, it didn't happen. The beginning of the school year can feel like chaos, but don't rely on car line chats or quick text. I don't care if you have the best relationship with your child's teacher. I don't care if they call you mama and bring you coffee and donuts to the IEP meeting. And maybe you're even friends. Verbal conversations are lovely, but they are not documentation. You might have great conversations with teachers, therapists, administrators, but you must follow up in writing. Why? Because people forget. Things get miscommunicated. Staff changes happen. So here's what I want you to do. If you talk to a teacher or a team member or a principal, always follow up with an email. If you talk to the teacher in the car line, send an email afterwards summarizing what was said. If they promise something over the phone, follow up with an email to the team. If you're requesting a meeting or change, put it in writing. Recap what was said. Clarify what you're expecting. Ask for timelines. And not because we're assuming the worst, but because paper trails protect you, your children, and the integrity of the entire IEP process. Not because you don't trust them, but because documentation protects your child. And it also shows that you're involved, informed, and professional. A written record helps everyone stay on the same page. It's not about confrontation, it's about clarity. And if your child is in middle or high school, this becomes even more important because there are more teachers, there are more classes, there are more people involved. You need a clear record of who said what and when. All right, bucket 4. Your child's IEP is not set in stone. This one is a game changer, and I wish that more parents knew it earlier. Here's what too many parents don't realize. You don't have to wait for the annual IEP meeting to make changes. If the plan is not working, if your child's needs have changed, if they aren't making progress, you have the right to call an IEP meeting anytime, as many times as necessary. An IEP is not a one-time contract. It is a living, breathing document. It can be updated, changed, revised as often as necessary. If your child's needs shift mid-year or they aren't making progress, you don't have to wait for the annual meeting. You have the right to request an IEP meeting anytime. So again, you do not have to wait a full year. You aren't held to only one IEP meeting a year. This document should work for your child. It should grow and change as they do. So if the school says, we can't meet until January, but you feel like something needs to change in September, request a meeting, put it in writing, and get it scheduled. And remember, you are a very important part of the team. Your voice matters just as much as anyone else's at the table. If the goals aren't being met, services aren't being delivered as written, or even if just your gut tells you that something isn't working, trust that and request a meeting. You don't need permission to advocate. And this, like I said, doesn't have to be combative. I've seen amazing collaboration happen when a parent, just says, I'd like us to sit down as a team to talk through how things are going and what might need adjusting. Don't wait. Don't hope that they'll fix it. Speak up, even if your voice shakes. You've got this. That's not being that mom. That's being the mom who understands her rights. All right, I want to give you a quick word of caution here about early IEP changes. Because while we're talking about making changes to your child's IEP, I just want to give you a quick heads up, especially if your child is entering a transition year like 6th or 9th grade or moving to a new school. It's pretty common for new IEP teams to reach out at the start of the year suggesting adjustments to the IEP. And at first, that might sound like a good thing. A new team, fresh eyes, new environment. But I will tell you, in many of these cases, what's actually happening is that the school is trying to make changes for their convenience, not based on anything new about your child. I've already seen and heard this happening this year. Teams pushing to change services or accommodations simply because they don't want to implement the plan that the previous team put in place. But here's the thing. Unless your child suddenly had, massive developmental changes over the summer, which, let's just be honest, is highly unlikely, their needs haven't changed and their IEP shouldn't be changed just because they're in a new grade or a new school. Sometimes they'll say things like, well, we do things differently here, or we want to try it this way first. Let me be clear. Your child's IEP is a legal document. And just because they've switched schools or grades doesn't mean that their services and supports should automatically be changed. Be very cautious if you're being asked to change the IEP before your child has even had a chance to settle in. So if you're invited to an early year meeting to adjust the IEP, you have every right to say, I'm just not comfortable changing the IEP right now. I'd prefer that the team have more time to observe and collect data. Let's revisit this after the first quarter if we need to. It's okay to say no. It's okay to take your time. And it's more than okay to remind the team that your child's IEP isn't about their convenience. It's about what your child needs to succeed. And you absolutely can hold the line on what your child needs because the law is on your side. All right, bucket 5. Evaluation is not a one and done. And this one's big, especially for those of you who have kiddos with complex or changing needs. Evaluations are what drive services in an IEP. They're the foundation of the IEP. So if the data is outdated or missing altogether, the IEP is probably off target. The initial evaluation process is comprehensive, yes, but remember, you can request updated evaluations at any time in any area of suspected need. You don't need to wait for the standard 3-year reevaluation. You can ask for evaluations in areas that haven't been explored: executive functioning, social emotional behavior, motor planning, adaptive skills, communication, and the list goes on. And here's a bonus tip. When you request updated evaluations, always make sure that you ask that they be full and comprehensive, not screenings. Screenings are just a quick glimpse. You want the full picture. Because here's what happens too often. Goals are being written based on old data, or worse, based on assumptions or teacher observation alone. And when that's the case, you risk creating an IEP that misses the mark on what your child needs. So if it's been a while, if something has shifted, or if your child is struggling in new ways, this is the time to revisit the evaluations that support their IEP. Look, I know this is a lot, but you don't have to know everything today. I'm going to recap the 5 big buckets that you need to focus on. And I want you to just keep these buckets in mind and come back to them as you need to. Number 1, know what's in the IEP. Print it, read it, and know it. Number 2, prompts are not the plan. They're not the end goal. Focus on growth and independence. Bucket number 3, communicate in writing. Document every interaction. Bucket number 4, the IEP can change. You can request a meeting anytime. Bucket number 5, evaluations drive services. Don't be afraid to ask for updated data. Now, I want to wrap this episode up with a few rapid fire bonus tips and some common misconceptions. First, it's really important that you learn to be proactive and not just reactive. Reread your child's present level of performance. Would a stranger reading that section know your child? If not, I suggest that you push to make it more accurate. Ask for copies of all evaluations prior to any eligibility or IEP meeting, at least 72 hours in advance, so you have time to review those. If your child struggles with executive functioning, anxiety, or transitions, make sure that's reflected in the IEP, not just in the behavior, but in the supports. Ask for accommodations that help them across environments. So remember, not just inside a classroom. Advocate for goals that matter outside of the classroom. Because the truth is, we're raising humans, not just students. Don't be afraid to revisit and request updated evaluations if something feels off. You don't have to wait 3 years. And if they want to remove a service from the IEP, there should always be an updated evaluation that has data showing that the service is no longer needed. I rarely recommend that a service is removed from an IEP without an updated evaluation. Now, these things are super important and often parents don't understand. The first one is your child's IEP should reflect their needs, not what's available at the school. A medical diagnosis does not automatically qualify a child for special education services. Their disability must be negatively impacting them in the educational setting. The next one is grades do not determine eligibility. A child can have straight A's and still qualify for special education services. The next one is an IEP doesn't follow your child forever. It ends at graduation or age 21. So you don't have to worry about it going into the world with your child. The next thing is you are not required to accept meeting dates or times that don't work for your schedule. The meeting must be scheduled at a mutually agreed upon time. And remember, you're an important team member. The next thing is do not allow your child's IEP to be replaced with a 504 just because they're doing well. Here's what I want you to know. Requalification is not guaranteed. And so you've got to start from scratch. And one more, because this one is big. If your school ever tries to switch your child off a standard diploma track, I need you to pause. I need you to ask questions. I recommend that you get advice because the truth is, once they're off the standard diploma path, it can be really hard to return. I always recommend that you seek professional guidance before signing off on anything that could impact their long-term outcomes. Educational advocates are there for a reason. And Mama, before I go, I want you to hear this. Special education isn't punishment. It isn't a label that defines their future. It's a tool. It's a support system. It's a bridge to help your child access their education in a way that works for them. And if your child is struggling and needs help, there's nothing shameful about that. You are not that mom for asking for a meeting. You are not overreacting for wanting to understand the process. You're doing what you're supposed to do, advocating for your child. Getting your child the support they need in school is not selfish. It's not dramatic. It's not too much. It is your job. And most importantly, it's your child's legal right. And if the process has felt hard or discouraging, don't give up. Don't assume because another mom had a bad experience that you will too. Every school is different. Every team is different. Every year is different. And here's the thing. You're not supposed to have all the answers, but you can learn and ask questions and speak up. That's more than enough. If you're struggling to understand your child's IEP, wondering if they're getting everything they need or just need help navigating the chaos of school meetings, that's what we do. If you're needing support, if you're feeling unsure or alone, we are here. And you don't have to figure this out all by yourself. Check out our website, notyouraverageautismmom.com, to see when our private membership is opening next, or who knows, we might even be open right now. And we'd love to work with you. Thank you for being here with me today and for investing in your child's future by learning more about this process. I hope you feel more equipped and a little less overwhelmed. And listen, if you found this helpful, share it with another mom. Maybe send it to someone who's just starting their IEP journey, or someone who's been in it for a while and maybe just needs a little boost. And don't forget, leave a review, hit that subscribe button, and even tag us on social media. It really means a lot. Until next week, same time, same place. Above all, remember, you, mama, are doing amazing at this mom thing.